Welcome back to Wild, Wise and Curious, Embracing Our Journey, where we're excited to continue the conversation around all things peri and beyond. We'll continue to explore all our stories, challenges and importantly the wisdom we learn along the way. As usual, we'd love to chat with women just like you who might like to share your own perimeno or post-menopause stories with us. We can't wait to chat with you. Welcome to Wild, Wise and Curious. Today we're talking to Charlotte. Welcome to Wild, Wise and Curious, Charlotte.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's lovely to have you here.
Lovely to meet you, Charlotte.
And you look very cosy because we're doing a video call with you and you're on your narrowboat?
On my narrowboat, yeah.
How wonderful. So,
yeah, the fire's on and everything's all cosy and twinkly and lovely.
Autumn is perfect time, I bet, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, it's my favourite time of year to be a boater.
I think it's gorgeous. Okay, so how did you come to realise that you were in perimenopause?
Well, I've got to be honest with you, I don't know if I am.
Okay.
I don't know enough about it to know what to look for, whether I am, whether I'm not, you know, what's going to happen, how will I know, you know, I don't know any friends who are in this position. All I know is women really who've been through it, who don't really like to talk about it. So I have purposefully not listened to your podcast yet, because I'm hoping that other women my age will want to listen to this episode because they'll have the same questions as me as, well, I don't know how I know. What you know, there's no guidebook, nobody gives you a manual. I have no idea when my mum went through menopause. I don't know. I just know nothing. I am complete ignoramus.
Not at all, because you're here and you're having this conversation. So if you don't mind answering then, so how old are you, just so other women have got a rough idea?
Yeah, 39.
39, okay. So, I mean, they say we can be going through perimenopause for about, well, anything between about 10 and 15 years. I think I was about 44 when I started to show symptoms, so still a little bit older than you, but some women are experiencing symptoms in their early 30s. So you've had no information at all about what, did you even know what perimenopause was, the word?
No, not until a friend of mine, I was talking about how I felt like I was having like brain fog and just really not able to, like, normally I'm so accurate and really like I have quite a good observation skills, and normally I spot errors and things, and then I keep finding that at work I've put numbers in the wrong way round, and it'll be like £849.73, but I'll have put 37, and normally I would have picked that up like a hawk, and then I keep finding things where I'm like, what if I couldn't have put, I would not have put, but it's only me. I'm a team of one, so it's nobody's changed it, and I've like sent it for checking, and I've checked it. I have definitely looked it over and thought, yeah, that's correct, but just copying one number to the other, or remembering people's names. I used to be so good at, oh yeah, that's so and so. Now I think, oh, I know what film they were in, but have I got a clue of what their name was? No. And if it wasn't for Facebook, when I talk about friends, I'll be like, oh yeah, it's oh, what's that? And then I have to find a mutual friend, search through their friends list, and I go, of course it's Sally. But before, like, you know, asked me 5 years ago, and I kept thinking, it's just COVID, you know, it's just because we all had that, you know, the pandemic and the lockdown, and we all got a bit lazy and we weren't using our brains. And then I just feel like it's not got any better. And then a friend said to me, oh, do you think you could be perimenopausal? I was like, what's that? I've never even heard of it. And to me, like, menopause, all I know is HRT and hot flushes. That's all I know about menopause. I don't know anything about this, the idea of brain fog, or I saw, obviously because I've been following you but waiting to come on the podcast to actually listen, Facebook knows I'm interested in this subject matter now, and it sent me a meme that was talking about oh, so here we go, I've lost my train of thought now. What was it talking about? No, It's gone. It's gone.
It'll come back later on.
It will do.
Probably when you're asleep tonight.
Yeah.
You're in good company, Charlotte. It happens to us all the time.
Yeah, it does. It does. Quite often on the podcast as well. Thank God there's two of us here, because at least then we've got two brains. Doesn't always work. Sometimes the two brains are worse.
Well, I was going to say, sometimes we kind of add up to one, but maybe not quite right.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the thing is with certainly what my experience has been is it's only now looking back and reflecting on what I went through over the years do I start to piece it together and think, it may well have started then. But I didn't really clock it. And it's funny that you say about the hot flushes, because we really have got this tendency to think that, if you've not got hot flushes, then you're not going through it, don't we? Even now, even though we know that there's so many symptoms.
I never had any hot flushes.
And it was only when I started to get I used to get hot flushes at night time. I used to wake up sweating. It was only then that I thought, actually, it might be perimenopause. But really, I think my first indicator was possibly my mood. But then I look back, I've got itchy skin. I forgot to say this before, actually. I was noticing it the other day. I was like, sometimes I feel like I've got things crawling in my hair.
Yes.
And it's a horrible feeling, because you think, oh God, have I got nits? But it's a really weird feeling, but then it goes. So it's not that. It's just that it feels like sometimes there's things crawling. It's a bizarre feeling. But
See, now you've said that, I feel like there's something in my ear.
But that's another one of mine, itchy ears. I've got itchy ears all the time. And so all these little things start to add up, and I think my first one was possibly tinnitus. But that was many years ago. I started with tinnitus. Started with it in one ear, and now I've got it in both ears. And then you start to put all these things together and think, actually, it's been happening for quite a while, but I just didn't twig.
No. I'm trying to think when mine all kicked off. Because it was similar. It was the tinnitus. It was like I woke up one New Year's Day. I think it might have been 2018 or 2019. So sort of 7 years ago. And I woke up with tinnitus. And every now and again I'll get tinnitus and then it just goes. But this just seemed to go. It quietened down a bit, but I was still really aware it was there, and it didn't seem to shimmy away. But then I had these really weird breathing patterns. Not where I couldn't breathe or anything, but just like I felt really a lot more aware of my breathing, and then that's all supposed to be like symptoms as well. You're funny you were saying about feeling like you got spiders crawling over you. I keep feeling that, almost like, like the teeny tiny, what they're called, the tiny little baby spiders. Every now and again I feel like money spiders, that's the one. I feel like they're running over my hand, and that's only been recent. So maybe we have got nits or fleas. Maybe it was last time I chatted with you. But I mean, there's so many different things. I mean, to be honest with you, Charlotte, and I've said it on the podcast, the only reason I really took any notice was because my mental health was affected, and it was like panic attacks, anxiety and things like that. So that's when I really took notice. All those little bits I'd have just carried on living with and not really thinking about,
and just accepting them as well. It's only really when your day-to-day life starts to be impacted that you start to look for other avenues as to, actually, could this be something else?
Yes, definitely.
So is there guidance from official outlets like the NHS where you can go and sort of do a little checklist, and if you've got 8 out of 20 of these, that's how you know? Because otherwise it's all quite hearsay, isn't it? It's anecdotal. It's just, if you, on the off chance that you've got a woman in your life that you can talk to and say, I keep getting this, or I keep having this problem, and they go, I know what. It's only if you happen to have somebody who can put the pieces together for you that you can even begin to suspect it might be perimenopause.
I mean, there's the NHS have got a little bit better.
There's a lot of information out there, and I think that's when it becomes quite overwhelming. But yes, the NHS, you can absolutely go onto the NHS and they'll give you your basic symptoms, and I think that it does go through the
hot flushes and dry skin and
irregular periods,
mood, anxiety, all that kind of thing.
But this has been more recent. That the mood and anxiety bits, I don't think have been on there for that long. But got to bear in mind, Charlotte, at this point you've got to know or feel that you're in perimenopause, because if you feel like you're too young because the average age of menopausey stuffs is early 50s, then if you're like in your 30s or 40s, you'd be like, oh well, it's not menopause, because you just think we haven't been sort of taught that it happens at 50ish. We have been taught that it happens at 50ish, not before. So I didn't even go looking, thinking. I'd never heard of perimenopause until somebody said to me, do you think it could be perimenopause? So, do you know what I mean? It's like you've got to almost think, okay, could it be hormonal, in order for you to then look up perimenopause or menopause? So it's really tricky, and we should all know so much more.
Yeah, and one of the problems with women's health in particular is that often a lot of the guidance is if it's irregular or abnormal, well, I don't know what another woman's period looks like, because I only see mine. So how do I know if I have a super heavy flow or light or whatever, because this is normal for me?
But and
I
don't know.
The key. And when they do the little pouring the little blue liquid on the advert, you think, well, it doesn't happen like that. So how do I know if I'm having a normal? And it's not blue.
Thank God.
I think that's the key, though, Charlotte, is what's normal for you, because no one knows your body better than you do. So it's when you start, and I always say that I think the best thing to do is start tracking everything. Start tracking your cycle, start tracking how you're feeling, and then it will build up this picture then that you can use at a later date, saying, actually, no, my periods have been a bit erratic, or I've been a lot heavier than usual, or my moods have been off. It's starting to track. And actually, I think I was listening to I can't remember who it was now. It might have been Mary Havers. Recently in one of the interviews, saying I never paid attention to my periods until I was in perimenopause, and I've got to say I'm the same. I was just very they were consistent, they were constant, they were painful. I just used to hate them, and I used to just wish they weren't here. But I never used to track them. I never used to, unless I wanted to get pregnant. That was the only time I tracked them. And then I never really paid attention to them, really. Whereas I think if I'd have tracked how I was feeling during the weeks prior to my periods, and that, I would have known myself a lot better. But I've only just started doing that now during perimenopause, and so I can follow it a lot easier, and then know if what I'm doing is helping or not. So tracking, I think, is one of the major things to start doing if you're not already doing that.
And there are some apps that you can do it on. There's, there are other apps available, but I went to Newson Health Clinic as a private menopause clinic when I was struggling with perimenopause, with the mental health stuffs. And they've got an app called Balance, and it's free to download, and you can track your symptoms on there. They also have a symptom questionnaire, which basically just has a long list. And Lou, you're going to give me the magic number. How many symptoms are there today?
I think it's got to be around 62, 63.
62, 63 symptoms of perimenopause. So it has all the symptoms down there, and you can basically kind of look through them and see which ones apply to you. And when I went to Newson, I sort of had to go through a symptom checker first just to see what it was that was going on, and they didn't laugh, obviously, that would have been very rude, but they were like, you're so perimenopausal from my scores on it, and bear in mind this is like 5 years ago. I think there was only 20 symptoms or something, but now it's like, because I suppose it's linked hormone, we've got hormone estrogen receptors all over our bodies, so of course there's going to be changes. We are going to feel differently. And
we're not affiliated with the Balance app, but
no,
we do love the Balance app because they've got some really good articles and stuff on there as well.
Yeah.
And it does give you the option to log your symptoms and log how you're feeling with those symptoms.
Yeah.
So are they feeling quite, what's the words I'm looking for? They're not feeling very strong. Feeling weak or strong, or so you can start to map it a little bit. We'll get there. 3 women between us will get there. And it gives you that option then to be able to. It's another way of tracking, but it's full of information and it's free a lot.
And it's got stories as well, hasn't it? Yeah. So it's got other people's stories of what they experienced, just little paragraphs. But that, when I was really struggling, I found that was really useful for me. I then joined loads of groups on Facebook and stuff, perimenopausal groups, but also the stories on the Balance app. It was just really, it was just good to know that you weren't on your own, you weren't falling off the planet. It was actually perimenopause, and there was a way to get back on, if you know what I mean, back on the planet. And
it's good, clear information as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So we sound like we're reliable.
I guess they're harvesting I guess they're harvesting a lot of data from the users based on what you input. They're learning all the time.
Of course they are.
So apart from the kind of self-anecdotal checklist, is there a way to know for sure? Is there a test or a because again I come back to I don't know what my normal hormone levels are. So if they were to test it now, would they say, oh yes, you're very high in riboflavin and vitamin D or whatever, and that's how we know? Or is there no way to know?
Well, it's a tricky one. I think monitoring things like estrogen levels, progesterone levels, testosterone levels, it's the estrogen level that is probably not the most easy to read, because you could go in there in the morning and your estrogen levels are really high, but by tea time they're on the floor, because our estrogen levels fluctuate all day, a bit like a roller coaster, up and down and up and down. So there's not really any kind of way to check those in blood tests, because they're not always reliable. I think the testosterone tests, they're a lot more reliable. But I think looking at the estrogen and progesterone and testosterone levels, I think testosterone is probably the blood test that has probably, from my own experience, has got the most accurate result. But the specialist wouldn't even check me for estrogen. It was more of a case of seeing what symptoms I had, and by working out from those symptoms whether it was perimenopause. And because I ticked so many on the list, that's kind of how they came to realise that it was perimenopause. And then I went on HRT and things changed, and I feel back in the room again. So, but it's tricky, because that doesn't mean that will be the same for someone else.
Right. And your HRT prescription, does that come from the results of your progesterone and testosterone tests, or do they just guess and throw a dart?
So when I went through the specialist, I had a good hour and a half appointment, and we chatted through all my symptoms, chatted through all my family histories and those sorts of things. A health history, not the whole history, but it had been there well ages. But so we chatted through all those things, and then based on the symptoms and how I was feeling, I started on a very low dose of estrogen. For example, like one little pump out of a gel pack, and then later on, because if you've still got a womb as well, if you're taking estrogen, you then do also have to have progesterone, because progesterone looks after the lining of your womb, making sure that it doesn't get thicker. That's the idea of it. So I went down this route, and over about 3-4 months I was on the estrogen and progesterone, gently increasing my estrogen dose until I was on 4 times the amount I was on when I started. But this was all under the information and advice of the doctor. And then I added in testosterone, and that really helped with the mental health, the mental clarity, and that sort of thing. So then once I reached that level of what was working for me, I've then just stayed on that ever since. So, but it's different for everybody, and also it's different where you go to. If you go to your GP, depending on on your GP, you might get all of that information and follow up, or you might not. It's I think the main thing is that we educate, hence why Lou and I are doing the podcast, is we all just talk through our stories. So at least if it happens, we understand what's happening, and we can look at the different routes that there are to go to look after ourselves. We were talking about it at the week for the weekend's last week's edition episode, about the things about looking after yourself, and a lot of it goes back to that, Charlotte, kind of like looking after your diet, looking after your exercise. What else was on there, Lou? Because it
would be all your basics, your movement, your food, your drinking water, connection was one of them as well,
with other people,
wasn't it? So
it's all those things,
all those basics really that will help anybody in any time of life with any condition really. Trying to get those basics right makes a massive difference. And we're not experts. We are literally just sharing
life experience,
everybody's stories, because everybody goes through a different journey. So whereas Michelle has had HRT, I've tried it twice and it hasn't agreed with me, and so I'm not taking it at all now, and I actually feel quite well on it, and I'm doing other things to try and help and basically going back to the basics and seeing if that helps me along the way, which is one of the reasons why I'm really quite keen on charting progress and journaling and that kind of thing, to see how I'm feeling, and monitor it, so that if it does get worse or whatever, then I can go see the doctor. And I think it's one of those things that you might have an inkling that you may be coming into perimenopause, but it's just if it's not terribly affecting your day-to-day life, it's just possibly a matter of keeping a record of it. And then if things start to get to a stage where you think, actually, I'm definitely in there now, I need to speak to my GP. If HRT is a route you want to take, then that's what you do. Go and speak to the GP and have that conversation, and take in your notes of, actually, I've been feeling like this for such a long time, and these are my symptoms, and it helps you be your own advocate then.
Yeah, definitely.
Food for thought,
I was really
Charlotte.
hoping you'd say, do you know what, you need to eat strawberries every morning?
Well, we do. I have strawberries every single morning. But it's, but some women just totally glide through it. I mean, I also say that when it kicked off for me, we were in the middle of the pandemic. Well, the beginning of the pandemic, so we were all locked up. I couldn't go and sit and have a cuddle with my mum, or any of any people that had been through it before. So that all of those complexities are in the mix as well. But there are lots of different things that you can do. And also, while there are symptoms, and while sometimes, you might feel a little bit up and down, a bit like when you're coming on your period. I don't know how are your periods? Are you still regular? Do you kind of have mood swings with them or anything?
Well, I've got a coil fitted, and this is another time when a nurse has told me off for not knowing enough about my own health. There was a time when I was having it changed, and she said, "What have you got in there now?" And I said, "I've got no idea." And she went, "Well, what do you mean you don't know?" I said, "Well, I don't know what it is." She said, "Is it hormonal or is it copper?" I said, "I honestly have got no clue."
Yeah.
She said, "Well, when was it fitted?" I can't remember. I just don't know.
Yeah.
And she was really cross with me. And again, it was that, you should know. You should know all this about yourself. And nobody had ever made it seem important before. So I just thought, well, nobody talks about what you should do. It's just you should have some form of, baby prevention, contraception. That's the word. Here we go.
I think I prefer the first one. Tells you what it is a bit easier, right?
Yeah, says what it is on the tin. But yeah, she was furious. So this time that I've had this last coil fitted, I was really pleased because she said, "Oh, well, your periods must have stopped on the last one." I said, "No, they didn't." And she went, "Oh, well, they should have. I didn't know that, so didn't know there was anything wrong." And then this time they did. And one of my terrible symptoms that I suffer with my periods is breast tenderness.
Okay.
And for the first 2 years I've had this coil in, that went, and I was like, thank the Lord, wow. And honestly, half the month I will have breast pain now. It just seems to have worn off. I don't know if it's stopped working properly, if the hormones in it are just fading out, but I've wondered if that's another, my natural hormone has changed, and so the coil hormone is fighting an uphill battle or whatever. I just don't know. But for pretty much half the month, every month, I have the most terrible breast tenderness, and sometimes it does make life quite hard, quite difficult. And getting in bed at night, taking my bra off. A lot of women are like, "Oh, I can't wait to take my bra off." I dread it because the pain is just 10 times worse. And it's another thing that you just think, well, I can't just go up to another woman and go, "Does this happen to your boobs?" We just don't. We're never in a position where it's somebody's opened the door for you to have that conversation. And then I think, well, older women didn't speak to me about this when I was a younger woman, so I can't pass this on to younger women because that's obviously not the done thing. And you think about safeguarding and telling them things too early and when's the right time. And I've been a learning mentor, and I've thought about how can I break this cycle but without oversharing or being too personal, or getting a complaint into the school that Miss Bond is sharing too much with my daughter or whatever. So it's really difficult to know where you really can get that advice or support, and you don't want to bother a GP with it because they're all so busy and appointments are so difficult to get hold of. And when you go in and they say, "Oh, what's the problem?" and you go, "Oh, well, it's just I feel a bit not myself," and they're like, "Well, point to it." Well, I can't. You just feel like you're wasting their time.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of that goes back to what Lou was saying about tracking symptoms and things. It's even down to achy boobs or boobs that hurt. And I have it sporadically where different areas in my boobs will be really achy and stuff. And when I started HRT, my boobs just had weird little feelings and sort of had weird little feelings and emotions. No, they had just certain areas of my boobs would hurt a little bit.
I just had a vision of your boobs talking to each other.
Well, they do regularly. They talk to each other to tell each other how they are. But you're right. You are.
They're bosom buddies.
That's really good at this time of night. I'm impressed with that. But I think going back to what you were saying there, Charlotte, was that I just kept feeling this whole thing about we should all be just sat having conversations with our hundreds of years ago we'd have been sat, and Lou and I say this a lot, and we'd have all been sat round the fire just chopsing with older women who had been through the mill. So if one of us was experiencing panic attacks, if one was experiencing tender boobs, if one was experiencing clotting or heavy periods or weird tummy ache, whatever, headache, whatever it was, we'd be sat round the fire chewing the fat, and someone would say, "It's okay. It's menopause. It's this thing that happens. It's amazing. It's actually a gateway. We retain the sacred blood, and then we go on and do wicked things." Wicked in a good way, not wicked in a bad way. And if people have really pissed you off, then that's up to you. But really,
that's different. Women gathered around fire.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I get mixed up. But it's just that whole thing of being able to sit with other women in a space where you can just talk to each other and work out what's going on, because someone might be a little bit older than you, or even not necessarily age, they might be the same age but have gone through something,
just have some open, honest conversations. That's what we're missing generally, isn't it? Open, honest conversations.
And you always worry about saying the weird thing, and nobody else having had that, and people being like, oh, you freak, you just worry about it being dismissed or being abnormal or just not received, and it's very hard to put yourself out there and be that first person to talk about it. Like a friend of mine, I absolutely adore her. She's such a free spirit, and we went out for dinner the other day. Well, it was a while ago actually, but when we were talking with each other, she just went, and how's your sex life? And I was like, Caroline, I'm a married woman, I can't possibly talk to you about my sex life. And she was like, you can. And she gave me permission just by asking the question, and maybe she wanted to talk to me about hers because she was having a great one. Not that I wasn't. I just hasten to add mine is fine. It was so unexpected. None of my sort of like she's a work friend who I've stayed in touch with. But all my friends I grew up at school with, like, we would never say that to each other because we just didn't talk about that kind of thing. You just didn't say it.
And actually, what's wrong with saying
making it not to? Sorry.
What's wrong with saying it actually? Because it gives us, like you said, it's that whole permission thing, isn't it? Of I can actually talk about this here, and I'm in a safe space, and you're not going to be like, oh my God, you do what?
It makes it not taboo anymore. But it's being the person who's brave enough to create that space or ask for it, and find the people that can give it to you.
Absolutely. Definitely. I think we're finding more and more, aren't we? And actually, and we've chatted about this quite a bit, but we're like becoming kind of like going through this perimenopause. Don't get me wrong, I mean, still have periods, albeit I've not had one now for about 3 or 4 months. Last year I went 8 months without one, and then I got them back bang on every 28 days for about 6 months. Now they've stopped again. So, I'm not menopausal, or neither of us are menopausal yet, because menopause...
Not yet, I really want to be.
Yeah, we want to be.
I want it to be over.
But like menopause is literally one day. It's the one day after 12 months of having absolutely no period at all. So you're in menopause for one day, and then the day after you're post-menopause. So it's kind of...
What?
Yeah.
What happens on that day?
Wow, you have a party. You can have a menopause party. I'm in menopause just for this day. Let's celebrate.
It is literally just that one day.
And then you might come on the next day anyway. So
and then it resets it back.
And then it resets it back, and you're perimenopausal. So it's all a bit bonkers. But
that seems very chaotic.
Yeah, it is. But there's actually quite nice sides to it. That the whole not go on.
It's all right. I was just going to interject there with the whole thing that menopause was a name given to it as well, because it's not a pause.
No.
The idea is that we're stopping at that stage. It's not pausing, so I don't know why it's called menopause.
Yeah, isn't it meant to indicate a ceasing of the menses?
Menses, but pausing.
Yeah, the pause. It doesn't pause.
No, it doesn't pause.
It definitely doesn't pause. Unless it pauses long term because you actually reach menopause and stay in.
Or maybe it's because we're living longer now, so they didn't know how long it paused for.
Maybe. We need menopause.
That seems really mad that it's for 12 months unless it starts again, in which case start counting again.
That's exactly it.
That's so uncertain. That's mad.
It is. But it's funny because it's like, although there seems to be a lot of, like, you think, oh my God, symptoms and dodgy periods and achy boobs and anxiety or this, that and the other. But there's also an element of it which is this needing community and wanting to sit with other women and chew the fat and work things out. And I think there's something magical in that part of it, because you then kind of feel, without going too woo-woo, you start to feel more connected to other women and to the earth and to kind of how things were centuries ago before we lived in this supersonic fast world that we're living in now. You know, when we were all like living on the land, living off the land, the place wasn't polluted, we were looking after our piece of land and all that sort of thing. And I just think there's something, I don't know, there's just something magical about this time, isn't there? Yeah, there's also an element of knowing yourself as well. Yes, and reconnecting with yourself. Yeah. Because I think, you know, we go through so many transitions as women, and we're getting to this stage of life now, and it's like, okay, so what do I want from my life? What do I want to connect with? Who do I want to be? And I've got this much time left on the planet. How do I want that to look like? Yeah. So it's just that reconnect. It does feel, doesn't it, that we've reconnected? Yes. With each other, and with ourselves, and and that feels quite magical. Actually, that part of this feels definitely quite magical. Yeah, definitely does. Plus, there's the bit where you actually don't give as much of a fuck anymore about everything that you gave a lot of a fuck about before. You kind of can say no. You can kind of, you know, you don't feel so guilty in saying, actually, I can't make it tonight, and then not giving a reason, or actually, I'm going to do this because I want to do this. And I've felt that quite a lot. I've been able to say no a lot more to the things I didn't want to do. The people pleasing becomes less. Yeah, exactly. The people pleasing becomes less. So that actually frees you up with a bit more time to do the things that you actually want to do.
And what do you think it is that gives you that zero fucks given? You know, is it biological, and is it because your hormones have changed, or is it because of the person that you have decided that you are now about to become? Because, you know, most men are full of testosterone. Is that why they walk around not giving a shit about what they've done to anybody or how anybody else feels? And is it that we become more masculine and therefore we care less and worry less about, oh, how have I impacted that other person? And you think more about yourself and become a bit more selfish? Is it biological, or is it just, I've decided this is now my superpower?
A bit of both, I'd say.
I'd say a bit of both. I think the estrogen is like the nurturing hormone, so we're nurturing everybody, and then it comes to be a part of like, okay, so what do I do to nurture myself now? Yeah. And I don't.
It's not like you go out there wanting to annoy and piss anybody off. No. But it's almost like you don't worry so much, or you don't try and, I mean, don't get me wrong, we try and cram a lot of things in, I can say that for both of us, right?
Yeah. And bearing in mind this is our experience.
And this is our experience. Yeah. But I don't know, it's almost like the worry side of things sort of like slips away a little bit more. So, I don't know, maybe you feel more comfortable in your own skin, so if you want to go and do something, you won't feel so nervous as you might have done. So it's not like you go out and you don't give a monkeys about what other people think. It's more of, maybe not. You don't worry so much about what other people think. That does not mean that you go out and you're not a nice person. Still a tree hugger and who will be lovely to everybody. But I will also be lovely to myself and put myself up at the top as well. And yeah, like Lou said, because estrogen, if that's fading away, with that being like your caring hormone, so it's there biologically, that's sort of you know, depleting, if you like. So you're perhaps not going to spend as much time caring for everybody else, that you don't give yourself a bit of that caring too. But again, that's from personal experience. Yeah,
and I think for those of us that have got kids as well, that have they've grown up, so they don't need us as much anymore. So there's that as an element as well. Yeah. So we're kind of like, oh, okay, my time was all taken with that, so perhaps I don't need to be spending so much time with that. So I've got this time on my hands now, so what do I do with that? Yeah, there's an element of that as well.
Yeah, there is.
So
it's a real mixed bag.
The way that our lives have gone, mixed in with the hormones, mixed in with the no fucks given.
Yeah.
Quite so much. We don't. Yeah. There's moments where you think, oh fuck it.
Yeah.
But there's also still moments where I can take things to heart.
Oh, me too. And I think that depends as well.
Yeah.
If you're tracking cycles, there'll definitely be times in the month where even if I don't know I'm going to have a period because I've not had one for 3 months, there will still be times in the month where I have little dips where I feel, oh gosh, I hope that was okay. I hope, but it isn't as, I hope I didn't offend anyone or upset anyone, but it's a lot less than it ever used to be. And I don't mean that would be me going out and intentionally upsetting anyone, but those silly thoughts where you say something and then you're like, oh, I hope that didn't offend anybody. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, you're choking on your tea.
Yeah, sorry.
We'll let you off. But it's a journey, but I feel like it's almost like a rite of passage, isn't it?
Feels that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is up and down, but I think having that bigger sense of self at the end of it all, wherever we are, I am, whatever, right now. Wherever we're heading, I feel that, I feel like it's a good place and I'm happy to be here right now at this age. I wouldn't be interested in going back and being younger. I'm actually really enjoying where I'm at and how I feel. So I don't think it's something to be, I don't think menopause, perimenopause, postmenopause, I don't think any of those things are scary. I think it's just a case of we all just need to be informed.
Yeah.
So we've got options.
And so we kind of know what we can expect, but not everybody's going to feel the same either.
No.
So there's some women that, like Michelle said earlier, there's some women that sail through, specifically, especially with being on the coil. Some people finish their periods and don't even realise.
Yeah.
So there's been ladies that I've spoken to that have said, I don't know if I've hit menopause or not because I've not had periods for God knows how long anyway, and don't have any symptoms. So I'm just going to leave everything as it is. Yeah. Which is fantastic.
Yeah, brilliant.
Completely forgot my train of thought there.
Ladies that you were speaking to not had symptoms.
Yeah, there was something before that.
Don't know where was it?
Sailing through
it. Yeah.
On a boat to the Caribbean, somewhere nice, or your boat.
I don't know. Completely lost my train of thought. But yeah, there's some people just sail through it.
They do.
We were talking about how it's scary, or you were saying there's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah.
But actually, because it's the unknown, there is definitely an element of I don't know what's coming for me, and I don't even know if there's a correlation between how your mum went through peri and menopause is likely for you. Is there a connection to whether you actually had children or not? Does that affect how it's going to happen to you, or absolutely not? And you've already mentioned about how lifestyle has such a big impact on it. Our pace of life and the culture that we live in nowadays, it doesn't foster that gentle find things in your own sweet time kind of lifestyle, and perhaps how tolerant we are of it as well. I've seen things joking about how all the young my sister-in-law, all the young women in the office are freezing cold, but I can't have the heating on because I can't stand it. And that's often what young women's experience is of menopause, is just the older woman in the office having hot flushes and pretending that she isn't.
And that was the point I was coming to, Charlotte. Thank you very much for that, because that's the point I was coming to, was the whole thing of we've become a culture of going, all these things that are wrong with me because I'm going through the perimenopause, and that's not been our experience. We've had to deal with some of that, but it feels like the coming through it, the positives have far outweighed the negatives.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Don't get me wrong, whilst we've been going through the negatives, it's felt quite crappy.
And trying to work things out.
And trying to get on a level, but it does feel like everywhere at the moment is making fun of all the symptoms that you can have, and I think it's great in raising awareness to the fact that there are so many symptoms, but we shouldn't concentrate just on that, because there's so much more than that.
Yeah.
Isn't there?
Yeah, oh, there absolutely is. There absolutely is. Like I said, I wouldn't go back. I'm quite happy where I am in the journey.
Yeah. So I think to your point, Charlotte, I think it's just the awareness of it, the awareness that it could be happening. It may happen, you know, in the future. You know, am I having some symptoms? Could that be that? That's something to be aware of. I'm going to start tracking it and seeing how often it happens. And just that awareness, I think, is just going to be incredible.
Yeah.
So that you know what might be coming, but also, you know, just enjoy life whilst you know you're feeling okay. It's just the awareness. I think, you know, like
I think so.
Know loads about
it.
Yeah,
they do, and we didn't know anything, and so had to work it out. But the tracking thing, if you keep an eye on the tracking, and then you ever want to go and see your doctor because, I don't know, the boob tenderness is getting way too much, or it's the boob tenderness and the foggy headedness and forgetting stuff, and then, you know, tinnitus, whatever. If there's a few things and you're like, do you know what, that's a few things, I'm going to go and speak to the doctor. If you've been tracking, you will be well ahead of the game, because you'll be able to go there, you'll be able to say, look, this is what I've experienced, it's at this point in the month, I'm starting to see a pattern, I think it could be that I'm in perimenopause, I know that these are all symptoms of perimenopause, what can you tell me about it?
Yeah, what are my options?
Yeah, it's almost just like educating yourself on it, and like as Lou said, some people totally sail through it. I didn't even really know my mum was in it when she went through it.
Yeah, and I was going to say that, because you did mention that, Charlotte. You know, do we have similar symptoms to our parents, to our mums? And I don't think it's easy. That's an easy way to look into it, because when I was initially having the conversations with my mum, she was like, "Oh, we just went through it," and I don't know why everyone's talking about it so much. But it's only through conversations we've had. She was like, "Oh my gosh, I must have been going through it for such a long time and I didn't realise."
Yeah.
You know, and it's just that it's the knowledge, because as women we crack on with whatever we're doing, because we've been used to having periods for so long, and they are vile, but we just have to crack on, don't we?
You can't be off for 4 or 5 days every month, can you, from work if you've got a period? You know, it doesn't matter. You've just got to, like you say, crack on.
Yeah, and it's this mentality that we've built now, and we are, you know, as females, we're incredible.
Well, we are, aren't we? And I think yeah, definitely. And you know, our generation seems to be, and I don't just mean our generation, but you know, like at the moment, it seems to be that we're finding our voice. Excuse me, and we're perhaps not so afraid of having those conversations like, how's your sex life, what are your periods like, do you get sore boobs, have you got a dry vagina, you know, those sorts of things. That's one of the symptoms too, Charlotte, just so you know.
I'm aware of that one, but it's one again that I don't really feel I could say, well, how dry is dry? What are we talking about?
Are we talking sand or...
Yeah. Sahara or Niagara? How dry is dry?
Exactly.
Like, you just don't know.
Of course you don't. But I think we are getting braver in our conversations.
But again,
that might be
for you, if it's too dry for you, if you know yourself. If you're getting uncomfortable, if you're having discomfort and you've never had that before, then that's going to be a symptom.
Yes,
that's something for you
to look at.
It is. It's just looking at, you know, it's just bearing in mind what is right for you and what is feeling like actually, because that is the thing as well. You know, UTIs and we get these things a lot more as well as you go through perimenopause. And that is another symptom, isn't it? Getting UTIs all the time.
Yeah,
it's great.
There's loads of things. But again, you could sail through it. You might just have the odd headache. Your periods might just simmer down, then stop. This is the other thing. None of us really know. Hence why having the conversations is so important. We find from all the episodes like that we've spoken to all the different like wonderful women who have been on the show, onto the podcast, have all given us different symptoms and different sort of how their lives have all been totally different leading up to them becoming perimenopausal. So there's all different manners of stresses or levels of peace and chaos and whatever. So we're all really complex before we reach perimenopause and menopause, and so we're all so different. And your vagina is different to mine. So it's it is just the education, raising your own awareness, and if you can sort of educate other people as if they ask you questions, and we're all happy to share the stories, and that's why we've done the podcast.
It's sharing the knowledge, isn't it? It's sharing what we've been through. For example, my periods for some reason seem to have ramped up. Now I would expect them to start slowing down now, but all of a sudden, no, they're coming even more regular. No, irregular, but I'm getting more. They're coming more often. Yeah. And they're heavy, and you're just thinking, surely I should be slowing down now. Why am I getting them more? It makes no sense. So I'm hoping it's ramping it up, ready to stop.
But you just don't know.
Don't know.
And this makes me think as well, you said my vagina's different to your vagina, Michelle. Actually, if we're a heterosexual woman, or I suppose if we're a gay woman as well, our partner has seen more vaginas than we have. And so maybe men can help us more by saying, I'm not saying you're abnormal. Yeah. However, the other women I have been with, this has been normal for them, and this is not normal for you, or this is unusual, or whatever. Yeah. My husband is 23 years older than me, and he has had what I call his practice wife. He was married before, and I presume she went through menopause. So my poor husband is going to probably have to go through it twice, and he has nothing to offer me. He has no wisdom, no learnings, when I was with my practice wife, this was helpful, or this happened, or whatever, and I presume that's because she hid it from him and didn't talk about it and didn't tell him, and tried to mask all the symptoms and hide it and everything. So my current husband has nothing to offer me, and yet has been through. He has experienced a menopause, not himself, but still, he's more of an expert than I am, and I'm the one with the vagina, not him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe men can help women learn more about it if they've been through multiple vaginas, or as I say, they see a lot. I only know mine.
Well, you do raise a good point though, Charlotte, in the fact that actually we go through this and having conversations with our husbands, our partners, our boyfriends. They are going through this with us. So if they're experiencing, like during sex, if they're experiencing that it feels a little bit drier than usual, I don't know. Having those conversations is really important. I know that, we've got amazing husbands that I wouldn't be able to do. I wouldn't be where I am today without my husband. But so having those relationships is really important. Having those conversations, going, do you know what? Today I'm just feeling completely off. I don't know what's going on, and then knowing that you've got that support is incredible. So we do need to be having all these conversations.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, it's really important.
And actually, men talking to other men about what their partners are going through, because it's tough for them as well. If, for example, their partner, wife, whatever, has been has always been kind of like confident, chatty, into this, into that, loves going out, or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden they're the opposite. Into this, into that. I don't mean into this, into that. Kind of into this, into that. I meant more like they're happy to go out and they love to go places. Into this, into that. And then all of a sudden they become a shell of themselves who's scared to go out the front door, and they're nervous to talk to people, and they don't want to eat the food that they were eating because the taste buds have changed, and so they've then got to go through this thing. And I say this because my husband took 2 weeks compassionate leave off with me at one point, because I was in a real mess, but it was and he had no idea. He had no idea what was happening. But what he did was just he was constant. He was supportive. He was always there. Even there was one point where I said to him, "Look, if you think you'd be better off leaving me, I really understand. I really understand." And he was like, "Where the fuck am I going to go? Do you want me to go?" And I was like, "Of course I don't. I'm scared to death." But so it's almost like the partners, our partners, husbands, wives, whatever, they've got stories too about going through it. So you're right. Your husband will have had experience before. My husband's had the experience of me. Your husband's had the experience of you. Bless them all.
I think you need to do a men's edition.
Well, we have. We just got to get on to be a bit braver to get on and have a conversation. But yeah, it's at the end of the day, it's not about what sex we are or what sex we're having. It just boils down to supporting each other. All of us.
And communication.
And having compassion for each other.
Yeah.
As a human race.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty much what it boils down to. I go into work now, and if I'm feeling a little bit meh, I'll say, I'm feeling a bit off today. I think it's probably just menopausal stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not poorly, so, but I just feel a bit off. So maybe I won't then deal with the heavy stuff. I'll deal with the nicer things, and save the heavier stuff for another day. So yeah, and my team are great. They're brilliant, and I think we've just got to be nicer to each other
and ourselves.
And ourselves.
Yes.
And ourselves.
Compassion for ourselves. Because there was times where I used to walk into a meeting and say, "I'm really sorry. I'm having a really bad day with my brain today. I can't seem to get it to switch on. So you're just going to have to give me a little bit of extra time if you ask me a question." And just by doing that, it took everything away.
Yeah.
And if someone asked me something that I couldn't answer, I'd say, "Just come back to me in 5 minutes." And it would work. And then it took the whole anxiety away.
That pressure.
Yeah. Because everyone knew where we were standing. They knew that I would get there in the end. And it was fine. It was no big deal. And then I didn't have that rush of anxiety because I couldn't answer the question, and I made myself look stupid because I was just being honest.
Yeah.
And it works. It worked beautifully, and everybody was very receptive to it. So it's just continuing to be open as much as you can.
Yeah, as much as you feel you can.
Yeah,
definitely. Definitely.
I think I would just want to pull you back to the idea of being more compassionate, because when I was a younger woman, I definitely didn't have a consideration for what the older women around me might have been going through.
Yeah. We all, the whole world says practice kindness and be kind to each other. A lot of people aren't, and a lot of the ways of the world aren't that way, but I'm a big believer in the fact that show kindness, and people, don't get me wrong, people are idiots as well, but on the whole we're all just trying to live our lives,
our way through. We're trying to navigate this well.
And we come at it from different experiences, but it's good. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't go back to being younger. I'm really enjoying where I am now.
Well, no, because you'd have to go through it again and solve
there is that. It's not that I thought that before I said it.
Good point.
Yeah.
So whereas we're not experts by any means,
at all,
Charlotte. No. We've only learnt through our own experience and from listening to other people along the way. So I don't know if what we've been able to share has helped at all with your questions or helped you feel a little bit more prepared in advance, or...
Well, I wanted to be ignorant of all matters.
Yeah.
I suppose being a woman, you can't be completely ignorant of everything. It somehow finds you.
Yeah.
But I will now go back and listen to your past episodes so that I will probably know the answer to questions I didn't know I had.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing for me, is I don't know what I don't know.
No.
And this thing is it just hangs over women. We know it's coming, but we have no idea what it means, how you will know, when is it coming for me, how is it going to affect me. And no, unfortunately, my biggest question was, how will I know? And you've had to say, you won't. You don't know.
Yeah.
That's kind of the worst answer it could possibly be. But actually, women my age and perhaps a bit younger need to know that you won't know,
unless the
symptoms it'll just start happening.
Yeah, exactly. There's no kind of like little alarm that goes off and says, you're going to be going into perimenopause in the next 12 months. But I think the whole journaling thing, keeping an eye on your symptoms, on your monthly your monthly tracking and that sort of thing, that's really useful, because then you could probably almost see it, the patterns come in, so you've got a little bit more of an eye on the ball. And also, maybe if you listen to the other ladies who have been on the episodes, because every single person who's been on to the podcast has had a totally different story and has had different symptoms, and some have had very, very mild symptoms, and others have had the opposite of mild, full on
severe.
Yeah. So, and it could be any one of those things, but I would say, I think that the tracking is good, because it just kind of gets your brain thinking, okay, so I had this headache on 3 days before my period, plus I felt this and I felt that, and it just gives you that little bit more knowledge about your own self. So, yeah.
Well, I think you're doing God's work, and I'm very grateful that you've had me on the podcast to talk about how I don't know anything about the subject matter.
It's been lovely to talk to you, Charlotte. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, really lovely to see you.
Yeah.
And we'll stay in touch. It's been really nice to talk to you. All right.
Well, yes, I'm going to now binge all the other episodes.
You'll be sick to death of the sound of us.
Yeah.
All right then.
No, I
won't.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Wild, Wise and Curious. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, feel free to email us at info@wildwiseandcurious.com or reach out on our socials at wild_wise_and_curious. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Stay curious, and we'll see you next time.